Welcome to the Lake Forest Podcast, a podcast about the lovely city of Lake Forest. Topics include local news, sports, music, food. My name is Pete. I live in Lake Forest as well. We are joined today by Mike Adams, the president of our own Lake Forest Caucus. I thought it would be cool to put a spotlight on the caucus and inform our listeners out there what the caucus is about. Well, who better to talk about the Lake Forest Caucus than our own president, Mike Adams? Mike, could you do a little introduction about yourself? Let's let the listeners hear about you.
Certainly. I've been Mike Adams. I'm the president of Lake Forest Caucus, and I've served on the caucus. This will be my fourth and final year. I've been a Lake Forest resident since 2004. I have my wife's name is Margaret, and we have two boys, both approaching 22 and 24 years of age. They're residents in Colorado. They're graduates of the high school here, and we're a product of this great city known as Lake Forest. So local business owner. I've been in business about 10 years now, but the more I spend time here in Lake Forest, the more I get to enjoy it and get a real true appreciation for what the city provides for its residents. It's a beautiful city, a lot of passionate folks that are business owners, sit on different boards, commissions, city council, etc. And whether you're talking about the beach or Market Square or any of the other businesses in between, it's a wonderful place to live.
You're preaching to the choir there, Mike. Love this town. How did you get on the caucus? How did you hear about the caucus? How you've been here since 2004? Who introduced you? How did that work out?
Well, it's a great question. It's a good story too. A friend of mine, Josh Jackson, he and I were having lunch probably 6 years ago now. He had mentioned to me, he said, "Hey, have you heard of this Lake Forest Caucus?" And I said, "No, I hadn't." And he said someone had told him about it, and he was going to look into it. And the next year, he and I connected, and he said he joined the caucus, actually had the opportunity to kind of run and be elected to serve as a Ward 1 caucus committee member, and I'm also in Ward 1. And during that year, he really continued to kind of let me know about the caucus and how it operates, and I should really give it some consideration to run as well. And I decided to show up at one of the open call meetings, which is open to the public. And I met some current caucus members, but I also met folks that were interested in joining the caucus. And I expressed an interest, and they encouraged me to submit my information and run for an elected position on the caucus. I was one of 4 people that ran during that year. That was 2017, 2018. And I don't know where I fit on the voter rank, because only 3 of us got elected, but I was one of those 3. So sat in on Ward 1, and the rest is history. I'm happy to share more on that as we get through this. So
Sure. So you came here in 2004. I mean, the caucus, you hear about in Iowa quite a bit for the elections, but wasn't one of the first questions that you had is like, what's a caucus? Did you ask that question, and how was it explained to you?
So when I moved here, I didn't even think anything of the caucus system. Yes, everybody hears about the Iowa caucus and what it means to the state of Iowa. But when I came to Lake Forest, we moved here from Libertyville, and all I was focused on was raising a family and hearing good things about Lake Forest, meeting new friends, raising a family. That was really my focus. And I would share on a personal note, I did go through some change with regard to my business. And, the first few years from 05 to about 09, I went through some considerable transition. And, my family made it through, and all is well as we look ahead. But I knew of city council. Of course, I knew that we had a mayor and things of that nature, but I really never took the time to learn more about how the city operates. And so I was just kind of disinterested, I guess you would say. And I do believe there's an opportunity, certainly right now, for us to get the word out more to the citizens of Lake Forest, to help them understand that we do have a caucus system, and it's pretty well run. It's efficient. It's nonpartisan, non-agenda driven. There's a lot of positives about it. It's made up of 43 individuals. I could go into more detail there. But, you know, it's interesting now that I serve on the caucus, I look at other cities and to see if they have one. I believe Winnetka has one, but I would share that in the state of Illinois, there's probably only a handful of cities in Illinois that actually have a caucus system similar to the one we have here in Lake Forest.
Now, Mike, isn't it true? You can say you like the caucus or don't like the caucus. Either way, if you live in Lake Forest, technically you are part of the caucus. Is that correct?
Yes. So if you are a registered voter in the city of Lake Forest, you are a member of the caucus. But what makes this unique, the caucus committee, the committee is made up of 43 individuals, and I will break that down. So city of Lake Forest is broken into 4 different wards, and each ward has 9 elected representatives. And each year, 3 representatives of each ward term off, because there are only 3-year term limits that are really allowed when you sit on the caucus committee. Now, there's also 7 that serve on the executive committee. It's the president, vice president, treasurer, secretary, internal communications, external communications, and of course our fundraiser. So over time, a person who sits on one of the wards might actually be asked to move up to an executive position, including a ward chair. So when we think about every year 3 people terming off, there are situations where 4 might be needed because a person sitting on a ward might move over to the executive committee. I hope that helps.
Yeah, no, it does. So there are 4 wards in Lake Forest, and there are nine caucus members in each ward. Is that correct?
Committee members, yes.
Committee members.
So,
Okay, got
yeah,
it. Got it.
so like when Josh Jackson asked me if I wanted to serve, the folks in the caucus committee in Ward 1 submitted 4 candidates to only the Ward 1 residents. And the Ward 1 residents had the opportunity to vote for up to 3 of the 4 on that ballot to serve on the committee.
So everybody in Lake Forest, they're a member of the caucus. And then I'm just going to go through layman's terms, how I get it, Mike, and then you can say if I'm right or wrong. Everybody in Lake Forest is part of the caucus, but you have to have people representing you as part of the caucus in the 4 wards. There's a 3-year term limit, and it could be less than 3 years if somebody gets on the executive board and you need to bring new people on. Am I good so far?
So you're good up to the point where it could be less than 3 years.
It could be.
The only way it can be less than 3 years is if somebody, you know, moves or decides to leave the committee.
Right.
It can always be more than 3 years, because let's say a person serves 3 years, they can then in their 4th year become ward chair of that ward. And if they get, kind of asked to serve on the executive committee, they could serve an additional 2 years on the executive committee for a total of 6 years. That is possible. It's not very common. Like I mentioned, for myself, I'm in my 4th and final year. There are some that serve 5 years. It really just depends on the path of their trajectory, if you will. It also depends on their engagement, right? So if folks are heavily engaged, the probability of moving to a ward chair position and on to exec committee is quite high.
And for doing all this work, Mike, what is the salary of a caucus member?
It's $0.00.
0 cents. Okay, so volunteer, huh?
It's all volunteer. And you might be aware, but for those who aren't, anyone who serves on a board or a commission or on city council, it's all volunteer, 0, including school board. Now, the mayor does earn $10 a year. So for what it's worth, there is one position that is a paid position, and that is mayor, and that is $10 a year.
I'm writing that one down, making a note of it. So a lot of what the caucus do, it seems to me, number one role is to make sure you have enough committee members to represent the people in each ward. And once you have enough people, you have to interview people that would go on the various boards, right? You have the school boards, you have the library boards, the planning boards. Is that right, Mike?
Yes. And each year, so all of the boards, including school board, including city council, including mayor, all also have term limits. So in any given year, take this year, for example, we have out of 7 people that serve on the plan board, plan commission, 2 are terming off. So we have to interview and vet folks that are interested and qualified to serve on plan commission. And as you know, in that position, we might interview, or the wards might interview 7 people and then decide, okay, we're going to bring 3 plan commission candidates before the entire committee. The committee will interview those 3 people consecutively, not together. And then at the end of the 3rd interview, the committee will deliberate openly in a nonpartisan fashion and make a motion to vote for 2 of those 3 to fill those 2 openings. That's just one example. There are 22 different boards, commissions, et cetera, that we have to fill positions for every single year. And so let me just kind of go a little higher level real quickly.
Sure.
The city of Lake Forest, their mission is to be the best managed, fiscally responsible, and appealing community, and to promote a community spirit of trust, respect, and citizen involvement. And the Lake Forest Caucus, we support that mission. So when we think about our role as the Lake Forest Caucus Committee, we really act as kind of an HR department for the city. So we're out there interviewing and vetting qualified individuals that we think will fit well in the boards that have openings. We're making these recommendations, we're deliberating, we're voting, we're putting them on the board. But I would share that even though the caucus committee is putting these people on these boards, the mayor has the final say on whether they actually sit on the board. And there are times where the mayor comes back to the caucus and says, hey, candidate B on, say, library, it's a bad example, but say library. Library is very contentious right now. But the mayor might say, Candidate B on library is not going to be a good fit. We need you guys to go back out there and find somebody else to bring in front. And therefore, the committee's got to get back together, find someone, vet them, make a vote, and present to the mayor.
So if somebody wants to be a member of the caucus or get on one of the boards, what do they have to do, Mike? What's the process?
So really the process is so there's a couple ways to do it. If you go to lakeforestcaucus.com, that's our website. On the website, you'll be able to find out which ward you live in, and you can reach out to your ward chair and let them know you are interested in serving on a particular board or commission, including school board, including city council, including mayor. Once you do that, you can go into our database. We call it the volunteer profile sheet. And you can fill out that sheet. It's kind of a resume where you put in all of your data, what you're interested in, what your specific qualifications are, why you're interested, if there's a potential conflict of interest or not, etc. We review that volunteer profile sheet, and then we move forward if we think it makes the most sense to interview you and bring you in front of the full committee. We have been part of the city now for 86 years. We're in our 86th year. And each year we actually renew our charter, if you will, to file as a political action committee. So all of the donations that we receive are public information and can all be uncovered if you go to the Illinois election website. So we are a political action committee, but again, we are nonpartisan, and we focus on folks that are not agenda driven. We're pretty good at sniffing out an agenda, and if we feel like a person has an agenda that's not collaborative in nature and does not fit well on a high functioning board, so if you have an agenda, it's probably not going to be a good fit.
Now, how often does the caucus get together to meet? I mean, is there busier times of the year during election times? How does that work?
So our schedule runs pretty much between September 1st through April 30th. Now, I would share that from May 1 to August 31st, there are other activities that the caucus is involved in. We might get out to different public meetings to make sure people are aware about us. We might be interviewing folks during that time for school board, like we did this year. We might be interviewing folks to serve on city council, search for mayor, talk with folks that are interested in the different boards and commissions that are coming up, because as you can imagine, in talking with well over 100 people any given year, that takes a lot of time. And if we start September 1st, we're never going to get it accomplished by the end of April. So a lot of work does get completed in the off season, I would call it. But during the regular season, September 1 to April 30, typically every other Tuesday night, we typically run our meetings 7 to 9. And the topics range from interviewing candidates for different boards and commissions, as well as having strategic meetings about our annual fundraiser, the annual meeting that we have, setting up things for open call, and certainly our spring meeting, which is coming up in March.
So when you're scouting people to be considered for the boards, I mean, let's just take the library board. What certain things are you looking for? Because you would think if somebody is leaving the board, there's a certain skill that's leaving that you need to recruit for to bring back on. Is that how it works, Mike?
I mean, that's a great point. So we typically assign board opening positions to different wards to try to spread the work around. So it's not a heavy burden on one and not so much on the other. And typically the strategy is the ward chair will reach out to the chair of the particular board or commission and ask, what is the board looking for? What is it lacking? You know, what do you guys, what is your key need for the upcoming year or two? And then we work as a full committee in getting names to the wards that are assigned these activities, if you will, to allow the ward to interview people and kind of narrow things down. So, for example, take Plan Commission. One of the wards that had that role this year talked to probably 9 people, and then they narrowed it down to about 5. And from the 5, they narrowed it down to 3. And then those 3 came before the committee last night, as you know, you were there. And we interviewed, again, those 3 folks individually. And then we deliberated as a full committee, openly and safely, and made a motion to vote and elected 2 to fill that position.
Got it. Now, are there any hot topics currently that you like? What's top of mind that, you know, we're coming you know, to 2021. Are any particular boards more interesting than others, or any issues coming up that you know, the caucus needs to be aware of? What's going on in the community?
Well, I think the obvious right now in this time of the spring coming up is our 4 candidates for District 115 are being challenged by a full slate of independents. So we're really ramping up our activities to focus on getting our candidates all to go on to District 115 school board. But beyond that, we're doing some year-end planning. We're starting to think about next year, you know, in close conversation with the mayor on some of our board positions that we've already put in place to get his thoughts. But right now, the main focus is District 115 and District 67. There are 2 individuals that are running as independents on District 67. So full campaign is upcoming, and we're pretty excited about what things look like going forward.
No, I hear you. It would be unfortunate if you have candidates that are challenging the people that the caucus has vetted. It'd be disappointing that these people that are challenging didn't try to go through the process in the first place.
Well, you make a good point. I would share that 2 of the individuals that are running independently on District 115, we did interview them in the summer. When we looked at the board at the end of the day, we have better candidates in our opinion.
Right. Got it.
Even close.
Well, it's just so frustrating. I mean, okay, we can talk about the 2, but you know, the reason why I got involved with the caucus was I was tired of hearing people complain about the city government not doing anything in their view. And the topic of the caucus came up, and I'm like, well, what is it? Nobody could explain what it is. So the people are being critical of something that they don't understand. And the whole goal of this was to say, there are no agendas. I can attest to that. You don't know who is Republican. You don't know who's Democrat. All you know is the issues that are coming up. And you have a lot of people to interview to put on these boards to help the community function. And if this podcast can help by having people go to lakeforestcaucus.com and fill out an application and put their skills and data in there, and they want to be a part of the solution, not part of the problem, I would think we would welcome that, wouldn't we, Mike?
We would, absolutely. The more folks that we are in contact with, the better. But I just want to continue to preface that we are focused on non-agenda driven. We're not about partisan issues. We're about issues facing the city. We're about plan. We're about library. we're about all of that. School board. I mean, when you think about the city of Lake Forest, it's my understanding we have nearly 2 years of reserves for this city to continue to move forward. We have a AAA bond rating. Not even the US government can say that. US
No, they
government's
can't.
US government's AA plus. So we are AAA rated. We're becoming less and less dependent on the state of Illinois. So I would offer that this system works extremely well.
86 years and running, Mike.
86 years and running.
Okay, Mike, anything else you want to let the listeners know about? I think we covered it well, but any final points?
No, I would just like to say thank you to the folks for the last 5 to 7 years that I've become more familiar with the caucus in their service. So many of them young parents raising a family that served as president. So many that step up as ward chairs that spend countless hours each and every week during the regular season, I call it, in bringing people together and having the tough conversations, deliberating in a place that they feel is safe, and having a vote. I want to keep in mind, I'll let everybody know that vote is private, just like it is when you go to the ballot box. No one knows. All we know is the outcome. So I just want to say thank you to all the prior executive committee members, those that serve as treasurer, all the way through secretary, external, internal, vice president, ward chairs, those who sit on the committees and do extra work, those who serve to find more candidates to serve city council. I mean, it is a lot of work. It's countless hours, all just because of the volunteer commitment that folks have for this great city of Lake Forest.
And all for free.
All for free, baby.
except for the mayor, $10.
$10.
Two cups of coffee.
That's about right. Yes. It's just amazing. And when I think about the people that sit on city council, the countless hours that they put on, those folks meet every 2 weeks as well. That's just that's a big job. And these folks bring everything they have each and every day on that position. So, and to the mayor is amazing. We've got a wonderful mayor this year in George Pandaleon. He's going to run as an incumbent, but so many mayors in years past that have done a phenomenal job with this city. Again, AAA rating on the bond side, and just a beautiful lakefront. The west side is starting to become more vibrant. I mean, just good things are happening in this city. And I would share, anyone who's listening to this that's considering moving to Lake Forest, I would really give this city a big look. Learn about the caucus, learn about how we operate, learn more about the city. You can go to cityoflakeforest.com to learn more about the city. My understanding, they're going to have a brand new website by the end of January, so very excited about that. The more you dig in and learn about the city of Lake Forest, the more you're going to like.
Outstanding. Well, Mike, thank you so much. Again, if you're interested in volunteering, it's lakeforestcaucus.com. Thanks for listening to the Lake Forest podcast. Please give us 5 stars on Apple Podcasts and smash that like button on Facebook, Instagram, Twitter. Let us know what you'd like to hear about on upcoming shows. Again, I'm Pete and can be reached at pete@lakeforestil.blog. That's lakeforestil.blog. Thanks, guys. Cue the music.